Mr. Kip Sorensen, what's going on, man?
Nice to have you back.
Yeah, dude, I got to tell you, the podcast you did, was it last week?
Yeah.
Solid. You don't even need me. I mean, I know I'm the comedic relief, but outside of that, like, you don't need me to run this podcast with you. You got this thing, man.
It is a night and day difference. And we've always talked about this. It's night and day difference to go solo, and it's stressful. I was really stressed. Like, I waited until after work on Monday, and I'm like, okay, I'll go at 7. I didn't even start recording until like 8:30 because I was kind of like, oh man,
What was stressful about it though?
I don't know.
I get it. I understand.
It's just so much easier to have you respond, have some profound thought process, and then me sound like I know what I'm talking about by adding like, oh yeah, and I agree, and I would add this little thing versus responding first is super tough. You know what I mean? It is. It adds stress, and I want to like be ready.
No, I get it. I would do the same thing. I don't do it anymore because I've just done it enough now where it doesn't really impact me. But if I wanted to record a video, for example, on a certain subject,
yeah,
dude, I'd have to talk myself into it because I just felt so awkward and uncomfortable. And I used to record like 20 times. I'm like, oh no, I stumbled over that word or I tripped up on that little phrase. And now anymore, I just hit record. I think about kind of what I want to say, maybe an outline of what I want to say. And if I trip over words or thoughts, it's like, it is what it is and just go for it. But it's just familiarity, right?
Yeah, totally. I remember the first time I recorded multiple times and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to commit to hitting record, and I'm not going to even listen to it until it's like live the next day. Because
what did you think when you listened to it?
It's the other day or the very first time?
The first time.
The first time it was super awkward. Yeah.
It's just weird when you talk into a microphone or you're trying to look into a camera. That's the weird one. When you're looking into a camera and you're pretending, like I try to pretend that that's a human being I'm trying to talk to.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that. Like, that's a piece of plastic and metal and it's just really awkward, but it comes with the territory. Like this is actually a good lesson because there's a lot of guys who listen who want to put themselves out there, who want to share a message, even if it's presenting in front of a team, for example, and they're just so afraid and fearful. Look, all that stuff's natural. The only way it gets better is through repetition, is by doing it and then doing it again and again and again. Like we see these guys who are magnificent speakers, for example, and we think, well, this guy's just born with a silver tongue. No, he's just done it enough and been, I would say, almost arrogant enough to like keep doing it.
Yeah, to think that you're probably better than you are just so you keep going.
You have to be a little delusional because if you are truthful about your performance, none of us would ever do anything ever again.
That's so true.
So it takes a little bit of ego, a little bit of arrogance to get yourself back in the ring after getting punched in the face. And I think that's what the greats do, is they just keep going at it over and over and over again, and then evaluating it, of course, and improving where they can and taking feedback and improving their skill.
Yeah. And a good example of that is I was just listening to London Real, his interview with Tom Bilyeu. And he was asking Tom Bilyeu like some of the most influential guys, right? And he mentioned Jocko, and he talked about Jocko, about the first time that Jocko was on his podcast, how much Jocko has grown in the last 3 years.
Oh, no doubt.
As being a more effective communicator, right? And a lot of guys that listen to this podcast are fans of Jocko as well. And it's like, hey, even Jocko has progressed and learned and has become more effective at communicating versus how he was originally. So.
It's funny because Brian Rose, who you're talking about, and I have actually had this conversation, and he's interviewed Jocko several times. I've interviewed Jocko 4 times. I've gotten to know Jocko now over the past 3 or 4 years. But the first interview I did with him was probably the hardest interview I've ever done.
Super awkward as well.
Really awkward because not only is he, at the time, he was my first like big podcast guest. Yeah. So there was the intimidation factor of just that alone. And then you take somebody like Jocko. Excuse me, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold here. But you take a figure like Jocko, who is very intimidating, to put it mildly. And then you ask him a question, like, I can't remember a question I would ask, but I'd say, so, how do you develop discipline? He's like, you just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you care to elaborate? No. I'm like, oh, okay.
It reminds me
this
of
is gonna
talking to
make for an awkward conversation.
Yeah, it reminds me of talking to my dad. My dad's that way. It's like,
Is
so how
that
you
right?
doing?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. How's the weather? Like, that's how you know the conversation is like falling apart, is the minute you start going, so how's work or the weather? Like, it's so hard to engage. And it's not so much that Jocko's probably not willing to share either. It's just like he's just so intense too, right? It's like the answer is good. Yeah.
Intense and just so matter of fact. Like he's so confident and sure of himself that it's hard for him to fathom why anybody wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
You know, and another quote I saw, and just because the passing of Kobe Bryant, I saw him that he says, I don't, something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing here, that I don't understand lazy people. Like I'm not even connected with them. I just am so far away from them that I don't understand. And he said, I don't even want to understand that. And I think a lot of these guys who are very, very successful, ultra successful, who have done great and wonderful things in their lives, it's very hard for them to relate with not having that mentality and not having the attitude and the fortitude and the grit and resilience. So explaining it seems foreign to them. They're like, why would I even need to explain this? It's so obvious. Well, it's obvious to them, but it's not obvious to somebody who hasn't quite figured that out yet.
Yeah. That's the value of this podcast, because we are so mediocre that we can explain things to you guys, because we can highly relate to the mediocre man.
Exactly. That's why so many guys resonate with what we're saying.
Yeah.
And a lot of them probably think we're full of crap too, which at times that's probably accurate. All right. Well, let's get into it. We're fielding questions. I can't remember at this point. Do these
primarily
questions
through Facebook?
This one's Facebook today?
Yeah.
All right. Facebook, we're having some big changes in the Facebook group. Just put out a standard operating procedure for our moderators. We have new moderators, or not new, but additional moderators. And we're trying to get that back on track. You know, it deviates when you have a group that grows by 100, 200, 300 people a day. It's very easy to lose the direction, the course of the ship. And so like trying to right that occasionally is a challenge, but we've got some things going on over there.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, let's get to the questions.
To join us on that Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Order of Man. All right. Our first question, Sky Peck. I know you use Sorinex workout equipment. Have you ever looked into Bruce Force sandbags? They are a game changer.
I'm familiar with brute force sandbags, but I have not used them. I don't have them, but I do like the idea of having something that isn't balanced.
Yeah.
Because like if you go in, it's almost like Rocky IV, right? You have the Russian and all of the equipment that he's using is machined and it's balanced just perfectly. Yeah. And then you have Rocky who's up in the wilderness chopping wood and carrying logs around. And so I think there's something to be said for training equipment that isn't precise, that isn't machined, that isn't balanced just perfectly, and that's a little bit more natural, like you would do in your natural element. So definitely I can see some value in there, and I think I'll probably just go, I don't know, I'll pick up a bag and throw it around and do what I can do. But yeah, a lot of guys I know who use brute force sandbags seem to like them, so I'll check it out.
Yeah. I was, in fact, just last week I was doing Turkish get-ups with 60-pound sandbags. It's brutal, man.
Like holding
Super
it
tough.
with one hand?
No, so you like put it on your shoulder, and then you do a Turkish get-up, and then you switch to the other shoulder, and then do it, back and forth.
Because I only know Turkish get-ups. I've only done them with
the kettlebell. Yeah. So instead of having the arm extended, you're just holding it on your shoulder, and then still doing the same Turkish get-up.
Weak.
Get up. 60-pound bag in one hand. Yeah.
On your shoulder? That's easy. Try putting it in your hand.
Or hold it in your mouth while you do that. Okay.
Wrap it up. Wrap your beard around it and do like beard ups and work your neck.
Beard ups. You even have a name for it. This just proves that you've thought of these things.
Oh, for sure. How could I not? One of my ultimate goals in life is, because I've been doing jiu-jitsu a lot more, is to choke somebody out with my beard. If I can do that, I feel like I've reached the pinnacle of beardness and jiu-jitsu.
Of beardness. I read a meme yesterday. It was, is every woman wants to marry a man with a long beard, because the patience it took him to grow that beard is the kind of patience he needs to put up with your shit.
That's funny. But the thing is, I mean, that's funny, yes. But look, growing a beard is the lack of trying.
It's like it's a sign of laziness.
That's exactly what it is. It's easier to grow a beard than it is to shave. Now, granted, you have to shower every day because otherwise you'll have like beard. What would you call it? Instead of like bedhead, you'd have bed beard or something.
Or like
so you do have to shower every day.
Yeah, it's like lint beard. Yeah.
Yeah. But outside of that, like people say, "Hey, how do I grow a beard?" You literally do nothing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, Chris Radquitz. Chris, you better be proud that I pronounced your name correctly.
You don't know. You don't know that you did.
I know. Chris, you can confirm. It would be interesting to hear your thoughts about how technology affects our lives, either in ways that we can be beneficial, where it makes it easier to connect with our clients or better organize throughout our days, but it can also have the effect of in negative ways also. Maybe the perspective is different between older men and younger men.
Yeah, I mean, technology is simply a tool, right? So if I needed to screw a screw into a piece of wood, then a hammer probably wouldn't cut it. Does that mean a hammer isn't good? No, it just means the hammer is not the right tool for the job. So the thing that I have to be cautious of is all of my work is right here, which quite literally means that it never leaves my side. And that is a danger for me. In fact, I just made a post on Instagram just last night, and I said, hey, in an attempt to rid myself of bad social media habits and allowing some negativity to pour into my family life in the evening, I'm just going to sign out of this device altogether in the evening. And so I did that last night, and that's not indefinite, but I want to try it and experiment and see if that works, because I noticed that the technology that's wonderful, that's connecting us, that has allowed this podcast to be listened to over 20 million times, that has done the tremendous work that it's done, is all using social media and technology and digital technology. But at the same time, if we're not using it correctly, or we're letting it get out of hand, then it actually undermines what it is we're trying to accomplish. So I think you really have to ask yourself, when you're using technology, whether it's computer or social media or this device or whatever, is it actually helping you accomplish the objective? The other thing I see a lot of people do with technology is that they'll overcomplicate things that don't need to be complicated. So I used to do a lot of my planning and my tracking for my day digitally, but I noticed that it was so complicated and there were so many little formulas and little spreadsheets and fixing this and tweaking that, and it just became something that wasn't productive anymore. So I moved away from digital technology, and it's all analog now. I use my battle planner. I write it all down every day. I use a pen and a paper, and I write down my plan, and I track my plan on pen and paper. And so I'm not using technology for tracking the way that I would for connecting with people on social media. So I think you just really have to ask yourself, what am I trying to accomplish? And is the tool I'm going to utilize helping me get in the right direction, pushing me forward, or is it getting in the way? And potentially it could get in the way, and you have to be willing to look at that and make corrections and adjustments along the way.
Totally. All right, so you actually hold the stick thing with your finger, and then that puts
it's really weird.
On the paper?
You just hold it, and there's this black stuff. They call it ink. And you put it on the paper, and you move your hand around in certain motions, and it makes what we call letters.
Like a keyboard does.
Like a keyboard, but different. It's funny. I don't think people can write in cursive anymore.
I don't think they do. I don't anymore, but I can.
I actually practice that occasionally.
We were taught that, right?
Well, yeah, that's what we learned.
Cursive, yeah.
Right. So I don't think people can. I think there's a lot of I think my kids can, because we're homeschooling and my wife is teaching them, but I don't think a lot of people can write in cursive, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah. I wrote in cursive on something, and my kids are like, I can't read that. And it's not bad. It's not bad. I actually have decent handwriting. They just have no idea what cursive looks like. It's really interesting.
Well, that is a challenge, though, is that let's say that, I don't know, let's use an example of a calculator. So you give your kid a math problem, and they get the calculator out, which is great. We have these tools. We should use them. But the calculator isn't working, or the power's dead, or something. It's like, okay, well, now how are you going to figure it out? But then we hamstring ourselves to technology.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that when that technology isn't working or isn't working correctly, or we don't have the right technology for the job, I feel in a lot of ways we've done ourselves a disservice by not being able to figure it out in other ways, doing long form math, for example, or, just the things that we need to figure out on a daily basis.
Or just the value of your brain understanding how that math equation is, like the how it's calculated and how it's determined. Like just
right, like why that
understanding the why of that is probably just good for your brain. And we should probably just understand things a little bit more.
I think it'll help you with critical thinking.
Yeah.
That's why I think I used to laugh at like story problems, right? Because you're like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? But that's better than math, because that's what life is. Life is a story problem. Yeah. It's a story with a problem in it, and you need to get creative to figure out how you're going to address this issue you're dealing with. Yeah. So I think we do well to unplug from social media and from technology as often as we can and get in the real world. And then we can go back to using technology. It's not the devil. It's just how you use it.
Yeah, well, and I think there was a good example of this. I think it was Time Magazine just a few years back, where they had an article about how genealogy and pornography were like the top 2 items that the internet was being used for. One of them, awesome. The other one, not so awesome. And it's just a prime example where that tool was being used for greatness, for a good thing, to connect people to our ancestors and find value in our, as being a descendant and all those kind of things, and connecting families together. And then the opposite was something that was probably breaking up families.
Yeah, it's just like we said, just how you use it.
Yep. All right, Stephen Parker, security versus growth. It has to be one or the other.
This is a false dichotomy, right?
Hey, well, let me read the question.
Sorry.
Do you stay in the job that is safe and pays well, or do you set out and go for the risky gold? What does it teach your kids?
What this is one of those things that's hard for me to relate to.
Yeah.
Because if you read that question slowly, like if this individual read this question slowly, I think he would just naturally know the answer. Like, why in the world would you want to for example, fast forward 30 years from now and look back on your life. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you took the quote unquote safe route, which I'm not actually suggesting is necessarily the safe route, but that's the wording you use. So let's talk about that for a minute. So you take this quote unquote safe route and you got paid a little bit more, but you maybe did something that you didn't fully enjoy, or maybe you enjoyed it, but it wasn't like your passion, wasn't something that like really motivated you and inspired you. And you kind of lived a decent, mediocre life. Would you be satisfied with that? I would be willing to bet that you would not be satisfied with that. That there would be all sorts of resentment and bitterness and remorse for not pursuing something meaningful and significant to you. And here's the deal. We live in a day and age where you can pursue financially a career, something that's motivating, that's uplifting, that's inspiring, that you're passionate about, that gets you fired up, and you can also make a great living doing it. Order of Man is a prime example. I make a great income, and every day that I get up excited about what it is I'm going to be doing that day. That is what is so cool about modern times and technology, to go to our point earlier, is that we have the power to do something that's going to make a great income for us and something that we are truly passionate about. Now, to get back to the safety thing, it's not safer to go the traditional route. It's a different level of risk. It actually may be less risky to pursue your own career, to pursue something that is deeply meaningful and engaging to you. It's not that it doesn't have risk, it's that it's a different kind of risk. And you need to assess what level of risk you're willing to take versus what potential outcome you're after. But look, life is short. And we're going to die. Maybe this afternoon, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 80 years. But it's just too short to just do what like we're supposed to do, or do what we've been told that we need to do, or color within the lines. Like, it's just too short for that.
Yeah.
I want to live a meaningful, engaging life. And you know what? If I don't make as much money doing it, and it's been exciting and allowed me a lot of opportunities and cool conversations and powerful experiences, then I would happily trade the money for those experiences. But I don't believe that that's necessarily the payment that you need to make.
Either.
I think you could actually make more doing something that you're excited, engaged with. It might take longer to get there, right? Because when I started, so here's a prime example. So Order of Man, I started in March of 2015. It took me 11 months, or excuse me, I think it was 7 months to make my first dollar from Order of Man. And I made about $1,200 in November of 2015. Well, when I left my financial planning practice, I quite literally stepped away from a multi-six-figure business to do this. So some would say, well, that's risky. Yes, there was a level of risk associated with that. But now I'm making significantly more than I was making in my financial planning practice. So yes, there may be a longer lead time to generate that income, but I think you can have both. You can have your cake and eat it too. Yeah. And that's what I would suggest.
And it's perceived sometimes. It's not even accurate, right? I had a consulting company, a small company, and I had an employee once where he wanted to step down and get a job at a corporate company, a large corporate company. And the reason is he felt like, well, we're expecting a baby, and I didn't want to work for a small company because it was more risky. And I told him, I'm like, how is it more risky? You can get a job for corporate America, be a cog in a wheel, bust your ass, and no one will notice. And if the market turns, you get laid off. Or you can work for a consulting company that has 5 employees, and the correlation between your hard work and the success of the company is almost like directly tied to each other.
Right.
So would you rather have the responsibility and the control of your destiny, or have this perceived stability and not be in control whatsoever, and no correlation between how hard you work and whether you keep your job or not? It's all made up in your head. Like It's just perceived.
It's just the level of risk you're willing, the type of risk you're willing to assume.
Totally. And he still left, bastard. Just joking.
Totally. And now he's broke and miserable and in a dead-end job.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you choose to work in a corporate environment and you consciously make that decision and you're satisfied with that and you found fulfillment, cool. All the power to you. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, not everybody needs to start a business. I'm not suggesting that. But if you're asking this question, then odds are that you're interested in doing it. Here's what I would say regarding what you're teaching your kids. What would you tell your children? Like, if they were asking you about this, what advice would you give them? Because that's what you're doing through your actions. You may not verbally be speaking that advice, but your actions are teaching them a lesson. And it's the lesson that you would actually, let me say it this way. If your actions are not the lesson that you would share with them, then there's a disconnect, right? And you need to figure out a way to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Stephen Patrick Perry. Do you believe that in today's day and age that it is still important to ask your girlfriend's father for his blessing for proposing? I just proposed to my girlfriend tonight, and she said yes. Congratulations, Stephen.
Yeah.
I did ask her dad for his blessing, and he gave it, but I know not everyone does this anymore. I was curious on your thoughts.
So you sent me these questions beforehand, and I read this one, and I thought a lot about this. In fact, last night I was thinking about it. Because is it necessary? No. Is it a requirement? No. There's a lot of reasons why I think you would, but here's something that I'd have you consider that maybe you haven't considered before. If I was in the dating world, I would want to find a woman who had a great relationship with a wonderful father. Because I think that would be very telling about our relationship together.
Totally.
And I'm not saying it's always going to be this way, because I know there's exceptions, but it seems to me that if you find a woman who doesn't have a great relationship with her father, then there may be potential daddy issues and relationship issues and some inaccurate feelings about men And again, I'm not saying that's always the case, but it seems to me that would open it up for those problems to arise. On the other hand, if a woman has a great relationship with a loving, committed, engaged father, then I'm going to assume that that type of relationship would spill over into your marriage. There's a lot of other factors, but that's something I considered. So if I find a woman like that, then I would be excited to ask him because of their relationship and the fact that I would respect him. Like for example, I really respect and look up to my father-in-law. Like he's a man who's disciplined, committed. He obviously loves his family. He provides for them. He's engaged with them. He's made a lot of sacrifices on his own part in order to make sure that they were always taken care of. This is a man I really admire and respect. So why would I not pay him that honor? I would. And so I see the demise and the breaking up of the family as a reason why maybe that you wouldn't do this. But if I'm looking to get into a marriage with a woman, then I'm going to look for a woman who has a great family background because she understands and honors the sanctity of marriage, and she honors her father. And I want to show her that I honor her father as well. And I think that's going to naturally spill over into your relationship with her. So yeah, I think I think it'd be a red flag if you didn't want to ask him or he wasn't even around to ask. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker. I'm just saying that there's some things there that need to be addressed.
Yeah. You would almost assume that you're going to have, in the ideal situation, that you would have a relationship with her father while dating. So it'd be more natural to have that conversation because it's someone that you know, you've been around, you're aware of the family, and you respect him. You actually know who the dude is.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I like that tradition. I think it's valuable, and I think it's a level of respect to him, paying him respect, and to your wife as well. So I say yes.
Totally. All right, Greg Rocky Walker, how do I stay on course of telling the truth and living by the code, but not being perceived as an asshole or holier than thou?
Well, don't be an asshole. Like, I don't understand. So you're saying that because you're living by a code, whatever that code is, that because you're living that way, that you're being an asshole?
Well, he added the telling the truth. So I'm assuming that it's almost like things are happening and I need to step up and give some truth to people, right?
Yes. Here's the answer. Don't give unsolicited feedback to people. Yeah. That's where you're probably being perceived as an asshole. Because you're telling people things that they haven't given you permission for you to tell them. And that's a problem. Now, granted, there's going to be some times where you need to say that because there's some sort of safety concern or issue that might pose a risk to somebody's well-being or life. Well, okay, well, you got to address that. But outside of that, like, be very, very cautious of giving unsolicited feedback because very rarely is it accepted as it's probably intended, which is to help. And you potentially alienate relationships and undermine what it is you're trying to do. So don't give feedback that you're not asked for. Like, that's the best thing. Unless you're in the position like a child, for example. Like, I have to give my kids feedback that they haven't asked for because that's my job, right? Same thing with an employer. I have to give feedback to employees. But if I take another employee on my same level, for lack of a better term, and I start giving them a bunch of feedback that they haven't asked for, like, that's not your job and that's not your right. And they're going to perceive that as you potentially being holier than thou, or a know-it-all, or a suck-up, or an a-hole.
Or a threat.
Yeah. Or a threat. Yeah, good point. So, yeah, just don't offer unsolicited feedback to those that you don't have a right to offer unsolicited feedback to. Okay. Like, Michael, it's the thing about we got to be cautious with this word truth. Like what are they speaking power to truth and all these like terms? It's like, yes, but that doesn't mean that you need to say everything that comes to your mind. All right, there's still some things that you probably just shouldn't say. And I know that there's, social media influencers and, you should speak your truth and share your truth and always say what's on your mind. No, you shouldn't. You should exercise discernment. Sometimes you should speak the truth. Sometimes, which more often than not, what people are saying is share your perspective, not truth, but share your perspective. And sometimes you ought to just keep your damn mouth shut. And it's your job to understand which course of action to take based on the scenario and the objective that you're trying to accomplish. And it's okay that you don't say something. You know, we live in this world with social media and this podcast, for example, where we're encouraged to like speak all the time. Sometimes you just don't need to speak. Sometimes you need to shut up and listen. And that's just as powerful.
Yeah. Man, I can't help but think like how many times I ran into this unique scenario when getting divorced. My divorce was, my ex-wife hated me. She might still hate me a little bit. But it was a really tough scenario. And there was constant use cases where she would attack or blame or communicate kind of things that I believed was inaccurate and wrong. And at first I was constantly like, oh, I got to correct her, right? I got to rebuttal that, got to communicate it back. And then eventually I was just like, why? Like she is not going to see my perspective on this. I'm not going to convince her. There's no like, quote unquote, legal reason. Like I'm not even in a position, it kind of goes back to the book, Crucial Conversations, right? There's a lack of trust. There is no common ground. So all communication is worthless at this point, right? It's not going to provide assistance. And now I look back at this, not from a perspective of her, that she was right and she was wrong and I was right, as much as that's her perception. And guess what? From her world, that was probably 100% accurate. But the point was I was in no position to be convincing her of anything. And I had no objective. There's no value of me rebuttaling everything. So I just disengaged. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm spending cycles and energy trying to convince her of something where there's no point of it. She's not asking for my input. Right. But it was really hard to do, especially in that circumstance, because I wanted to stand up for myself. Right. No, that's not right. Let me drop my opinion on you and try to convince you otherwise. But it was pointless because I was not in a position where she even respected me to even listen to any of those things.
Yeah. I mean, restraint can be a very powerful practice when applied correctly. And like you said, it helps you maintain some of that energy and those resources that you would be expending otherwise. In fact, on Friday, there'll be a podcast on our Friday Field Notes that kind of revolves around this, the 10 Commandments of Logic. And I'm going to break down how you can have civil discourse with individuals and these commandments of logic. For example, thou shalt not attack the person's character, but the argument. The second one is thou shalt not misrepresent or exaggerate a person's argument in order to make them easier to attack. So I'm going to go through these 10 commandments of logic, ensuring that we as communicators use these ideas of logic. And then if we realize that there's people who are abusing these commandments of logic, that it's probably best to disengage with them because you're in a lose-lose situation here. So yeah. I'll go through it out on Friday.
So to catch that Friday, subscribe to the podcast and or look for that video on YouTube as well. Sure. And that's youtube.com/Order of Man.
You're getting good at these little segues, man. I'm impressed.
Working it.
Yes, all sir.
Right. Michael Gorham, finding the balance between building discipline and building bonds with your young sons. I like this question, by the
way. Again. Well, yeah. No. I'm just saying they're not at odds with each other.
Yeah.
Like when I think of balance, I think of two conflicting ideas that you're trying to like balance between, right? So like balancing time at work versus time with your family. That makes sense because one takes away from the other. So you have to balance that to find the right place. But I don't think being disciplined and then forging bonds with your children, I believe you said, those are at odds with each other. In fact, I think being disciplined would help you create better bonds with your children. Discipline in your schedule, discipline in signing out of work when you say you will, discipline in working out, potentially even with them and getting them involved, discipline in doing your own practices and then encouraging them to do their practices so they develop discipline. These things are not at odds with each other, unless I'm misunderstanding the question.
No, I think you understood the question perfectly, but it's interesting because when I read the question, what I immediately assumed, not assumed, but I maybe Michael and I are more on the same page because I agree, right? You can learn and teach discipline while being active with your child, right? And being an example. However, I think sometimes maybe it's the definition that we put around discipline. And maybe Michael's looking at it from a perspective of kind of communicating discipline and riding them and holding them accountable, not participating with them as much. Right. And it's more, listen to me, Timmy, you need to get up on time, blah, blah, blah. And, kind of maybe riding them hard. And that's kind of affecting your bond with them because you're kind of being stern with them.
Okay. So I think, yes, that makes sense. So I think what I'm hearing you say, and maybe in this question, is disciplining your children versus forging bonds with them.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. But it's just ironic, right? Because maybe you've already answered the question is the way you do both. And a lot of it has to do with showing what discipline looks like, not just speaking to discipline all the time.
Right. Well, let me give you an example. I don't like sharing these examples because it illustrates my own inadequacies as a father, but it will help.
Perfect. Let's grab this segment. So
yes,
how much time are we in?
So the other day I was gone at SHOT Show last week, and I told my son, okay, you got the orders. You can take care of the orders that come in by yourself. He's like, okay, I can do that.
Is that why I got 5 hats instead of 1?
Exactly. Yeah. No, he did a pretty good job. So I got back, but it wasn't done to standard. It wasn't done to the standard that we had talked about. And instead of communicating that with him and having a mature discussion, I yelled at him. And I lost my cool. And I ended up having to apologize later because of the way that I responded. Now, one might say that I was disciplining him by yelling at him, but did it produce the intended result? The answer is certainly it did not. Yeah. And it didn't create a deeper bond with us. In fact, it drove a wedge between us. Not a great wedge, not something that I can't overcome, but a wedge nonetheless. And so I had to go and apologize and fix the situation and realize that the way that I responded was not discipline. It was immaturity and emotional reaction. And it undermined what I wanted to get accomplished and our bond and his ability to do his job effectively. So we went back in. I rectified the situation. I said sorry. I apologized. And then I did what I should have done in the first place, which was explain to him the standard again, reiterate the standard, ask him why he didn't meet the standard, because he shared some things that I wasn't aware of when I was being emotional. And then we rectified the situation and all is well. So discipline isn't about being like the abusive figure, that has the whip.
Yeah.
It's about using your words and your vocabulary and your example and your actions to produce an intended result in your children, which is that they're going to be capable of doing these things better when you're not there. Because isn't that ultimately the objective? Is to raise self-sufficient, self-sustained human beings, adults. And the way that we utilize our discipline or the way that we discipline our children, like spanking. I don't spank my kids. You could say that's discipline. I know there's guys that probably do spank their kids, and you can say that's discipline, but I think it undermines what you would be trying to accomplish. So I choose not to use that as a form of discipline. I can have a serious conversation and an uncomfortable conversation and still forge a bond with my children because of the way I'm doing it. So just think about how you're using it and be careful to not use it incorrectly like I did. That's something that keeps me up at night. I'm like, man, I just did not handle that. I did not handle that good at all. So there you go.
All right. He's not perfect.
I know.
Perfect beard, though.
Shocker. Yeah, perfect beard. So we can get some things right, but not everything.
Yeah. Greg Anderson, how do you overcome being tired all the time, which in turn affects motivation and production?
Sorry, I was on mute because I was taking a big drink of water there. Okay, so how do you avoid being tired? Okay, there's a lot here. Number one, find work that's meaningful and engaging to you. You might be tired because you're doing something that's miserable, and that would be tiring and boring. Number two, start eating better. eat better food. Because if you're drinking a bunch of soda and you're eating a bunch of junk food, then your body isn't recovering correctly, and naturally you're going to be more tired. Number 3, exercise. I know that might be counterintuitive because you think, well, if I exercise more, then I'll be more tired. Well, if you're 30 or 40 or 50 pounds overweight, then you're carrying an extra 50 pounds around. You're naturally going to be more tired. I used to weigh 50 pounds more than I do right now. And several years ago, I went into the gym after I lost that 50 pounds, and I picked up a 45-pound plate. And I was like, holy shit, no wonder I was tired all the time. I was literally carrying this 50-pound plate around my body every day, all day. And while I was sleeping, I had this layer of fat around my neck that was trying to suffocate me. Of course I'm tired. Of course I'm tired.
Yeah.
A couple other strategies. Turn off the electronics before you go to bed. There's research and conclusive evidence that suggests that I believe it's the blue light blocks melatonin production in our bodies and keeps us from sleeping. So turn that device off, read a book in bed. In fact, don't even read a book in bed. Read a book in your chair. And the bed is for 2 things, sex and sleeping. That's it.
That's it.
No TV or anything in your bedroom, none of that stuff. Make it pitch black in there. Set the temperature where it's cool. There's a lot of little things that you can do to ensure that you're sleeping the best. And then wake up early. Accomplish your day, do your thing, and those are the strategies that have worked for me. Like I don't get tired during the day, but I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on these things.
One thing that I heard that I think is profound is sleep is not all created equal. So you could be quote unquote sleeping for 8 hours, but if it's not deep sleep, you're not recovering. So I would even look at things like what's the general rules, like no caffeine past 2 p.m. Because people think, oh, I can drink a cup of coffee before bed and go to sleep and I fall asleep fine. Yeah, but the quality of sleep that you're getting is being affected. So look at what you're inputting into your body before bed. The general rule I've heard is like no caffeine or anything past 2 p.m. because it actually takes that long for it to get out of your system.
Well, and if you really want to sleep, just don't consume caffeine at all.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you want to take it to the extreme, do that. And I think that will help. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
all right. Zing Alec, what tools do you use while reading in order to fully absorb important information?
Usually what I do when I read a book, I'd grab one. They're behind. I won't grab one right now. But usually what I'll do when I read is I have a highlighter with me. So I'll read the book. And if something stands out, either a segment or a paragraph or a page, I'll highlight that sentence or paragraph, or I'll draw a vertical line on that page, meaning this entire page is important to me. And then I'll just do a little dog ear on the page itself, and I'll keep reading. Okay, so then I'll get through the entire book. And then what I'll do is I'll go back through the book. So I'll start at the first page and go to the pages that I dog-eared and reread the segments that I highlighted, and then ask how I might be able to implement that or why that was important. So I actually go through the book twice, a full read with annotations, and then I go back and I just read the annotations themselves.
I see. Do you ever write I used to do this back in the day, but I don't do it anymore. But do you ever write like a book summary afterwards, like just kind of a written out summary of the book? Have you ever done that?
No, because that seems
too time consuming.
That seems like a waste of time to me. Yeah. It just seems like, I mean, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I should try that, but no, I haven't.
Yeah. I've highlighted, but I actually don't go back and then intentionally reread them, right? Like I almost mark it as, I don't know, sometime whenever I want to look at that again, I'll somehow look through those and
you won't.
Yeah. And I won't. Yeah. I like that. I like that review going on.
You also, when I do that, I also go back the second time with the goal of implementation. So what am I going to pull out?
Apply? Yeah.
And exactly. So if I read this specific paragraph that I really liked, my question is, okay, now what? Cool. Yeah. Great sentence. What do I do with this information? And then I try to take one thing and apply it into my practices. The trap that I fell into several years ago was just reading a ton of books just for the sake of reading books. Yeah. And I thought like that was the badge of honor. Well, if you never apply any of it, it doesn't really matter. So I've actually scaled way back on my book reading and read more for application rather than consumption.
Let me ask you this. There's a great quote that I read years and years ago, and I've never been able to find this quote, but it was something to the extent of thought and like it's really around thought without conclusion is like a waste of time. And I really like that thought process, mostly from the perspective of people complain about things like, oh, I hate that this is this way, and then they move on. Well, then what's the conclusion? Like, what are you going to do about it? And I think when we read books without the intention of implementation, it's the same thought process is, oh, awesome information. Yeah, but what are you going to do about it? What now? What? Like, what's the conclusion that you're going to step away with? Because that means action, right? Coming out of gathering more information. But yeah.
No, that's a great point. It's, we have a phrase in our church of pondering the scriptures, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of pondering the scriptures is not simply reading them, but pondering on them, like reflecting, thinking about it, putting yourself in the shoes of the characters you're reading about and the scenarios that you're learning from. And figuring out how it'll apply to your life and what is the lesson being taught and how can that make you a better human being. We can take that same concept, pondering, and utilize it when it comes to reading other books that we might be interested in. So yeah, reflect, ponder, put yourself in their shoes, ask yourself, like, what is the outcome, the objective to your point earlier? And I just think you'll have a better time retaining this information.
Yeah, cool. Alphabet Paul, can you tell me the secret of your success? The secret.
The secret.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know that. Join the Iron Council. We'll let you know there.
We'll tell you the secret on day one.
Right. Well, I don't know if the premise is entirely true. In that, a couple of things. Yeah. In that, there is one secret.
Maybe key things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that, I'm really all that successful. I mean, yeah, I've had some success, relative to other people, I guess. But I mean, plenty of people are just as successful, if not more so. So I don't know, like, if I understand or agree with the entire premise. Right. And like, what is success anyways? Like, are you talking about success in my business? Are you talking about success with my family?
Joyful.
Like fulfillment, happy, financial success? Like, what is it that you're referring? I don't know. So it's a very, to your point you made last week about general questions that are hard to answer, I will give general advice.
Yeah.
Or suggestions or thoughts. Number one, I would say, is have a plan. Well, have an objective. Excuse me. You need to have an objective first. Have something that you're after. Because if you're not after anything, then you don't really know what you're trying to go towards.
Tumbleweed.
Right. Yeah. It's just, good point. You get great analogy. You're just blowing around wherever the wind takes you. So having an objective. Number two, have a plan to meet that objective. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to work out exactly right. But if you have a plan, you're going to get there quicker than if you don't have a plan and you're just bouncing around hoping to get to point B. Number three is find people. And this is a direct benefit of the podcast, is find successful people who are doing what you want to do and pick their brain, talk with them, learn from them, be mentored by them, read their books, sign up for their newsletters, go to their courses, surround yourself by these individuals, and then you will get there. If you implement the same thing, your likelihood of you getting to the same place is pretty significant. And then go to work. That's it. Just don't be distracted. Just go to work and be consistent and show up every day. And regardless of how you feel or what your emotions are at any given day, like, just go do the work, execute the plan. Execute what these individuals are teaching you and just do it and fall in love with the process and realize that through that process, inevitably you're going to produce the results when you're ready. You'll produce the result when you're ready. You have to do the work to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think one of the profound things that you said, Ryan, is what is success? I think it's important for us to identify that, not to have some elusive idea that once I make some money, I will be happy, or like, you need to be really clear on that. I remember my thought process going into college was, my dad was a farmer, worked in a coal mine, And so I thought, man, if post college, if I can make as much money as he makes at that age, I'd be golden. That was $40,000. That was my goal.
Yeah.
Seriously, that was like success to me.
Because that's all you know,
that's
right?
how low the bar was. Yeah.
Right.
College wasn't even a conversation, by the way, in my family. Like it was a rare, like when I brought that up, my parents are like, what?
Really?
Yeah. I didn't even know.
Interesting.
I didn't know how to sign up. Totally different world that I was raised in. But my point is I thought that was success. And guess what? When 40 came, did I feel successful? No. Right. Then I thought, you know what? It's 60. I need 60. Got 60. It felt a lot like 40.
Yes.
And 80 still felt like 40. And 100 still felt like 40. And that's what happens to people, I think, is we think that success or happiness and joy is maybe in a dollar value without clearly sitting back and defining anything. And when it comes, we just keep chasing this carrot that's constantly floating in front of us, when in reality, all that we needed to do is have flexibility of time and have wonderful experiences with our family. And guess what? I could have pulled that off at 40.
Yeah.
So I think we need to define what is success.
It's hard because what we do is we compare ourselves to so many other people. That's a social media thing, right? We look at what all these other people are doing, and we have the fear of missing out and the plague of keeping up with the Joneses, and how come I'm not popular like that guy or running around in this person's circles. And so we think, well, once I have that's external factor, then, like you said, then I'll be happy, then I'll be satisfied, then I'll be fulfilled. No, you have to be those things first. The other things will come naturally and inevitably.
Yeah, and we talk about this. You take action, and then you have.
Right.
There is no like, oh, once I have these things, then I'll be happy. No, it doesn't work that way. Because one, you use this analogy all the time, is you didn't earn it. So you're not going to be that way because you haven't even earned the right to have that. And how much control do we have really over our circumstances? Like the Stoic approach to this is, regardless of circumstances that we have in life, you can choose to show up a certain way. And that is who we are being in the moment. All right.
Well said.
Chris Baber. Oh, this isn't a question. I just wanted to say my wallet is awesome. And by showing his wallet to people, he gets a 25% discount in all purchases. Not guaranteed, by the way.
Wait, what did you say? I didn't catch that.
Well, I joke around with my kids. So I tell my boys, I'm like, see my Order of Man wallet, because they all want one, right? And we've been sold out of them, so I haven't snagged some more ones. But they think it's great, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I just show the Order of Man logo on the wallet at the drive-in, and they like give me free stuff.
Right?
They're like, oh yeah, Order of Man guy,
you're good.
Extra bean burrito for you. I'm not going to charge you for the sour cream.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna actually have to try that.
You should try it. Just start flashing your wallet at people and see what happens.
You know what's funny is I bet you could get discounts if you did that.
Possibly.
Like I bet if you said, hey,
is there an Order of Man discount?
Yeah. And just showed like, hey, I'm part of Order of Man, and you had your shirt on or a hat or your wallet, and say, can I get that Order of Man discount? I was told I can get 10%. I'd be really curious to see how many people can get discounts. Try that. Guys, try that. Please. I beg of you, try that. And if you have success getting a quote unquote Order of Man discount at stores, I'll send you some free stuff. Like I'll send you a shirt.
You'll get a real Order of Man discount.
Yeah. Like if you can verify that you had a legitimate discount that they gave you because you were a member of Order of Man, I will send you something.
I love it. That
would be so awesome.
I ruined what Chris wanted to share. What he really wanted to share was that his wallet's awesome, but the card from Brecken was even better.
Yeah, Brecken does a little sign note in the orders and lets people know what he's all about and what he's doing. So he likes doing that.
That's great.
Cool.
Will Bagley. Hey guys, I'm graduating in a year with a degree in special education. As a future public school teacher, what can I do to mentor boys in need of father figures without overstepping professional boundaries? How can I create a classroom culture that doesn't shame boys for being boys? How can I effectively teach to their learning styles?
Yeah, I think we talked about this several weeks ago, but the biggest thing I think you're going to need to do with boys is have some sort of experiential learning right? If you purely teach from the textbooks, you're going to have a hard time connecting with these boys. Like, you don't want to learn from a textbook. No boy wants to learn from a textbook. And this is why girls seem to thrive when it comes to education and getting into college. And now we see more women getting these jobs and career opportunities because of it. So I think you're going to have to find a way to get them to get more of their senses involved in the learning and growing and educational process, whether that's through field trips or competition in the classroom. I really like the idea, Kip, I think you had, of partnering them up in the class and letting them compete to some degree to what you can, and seeing how that would foster a healthy dose of competition and excitement in the young men that you're going to be dealing with. But yeah, the more senses you can get involved, the more you can get them outside of the classroom, the more that you can get them engaged beyond just reading out of a textbook, the more success you're going to have. I commend you for going into this field primarily driven by women. But man, we need more men teaching these boys what it means to be a man. And look, here's the deal. A woman cannot fully teach a young man what it means to be a man. She can teach a lot about what it means to be a good person, but there's so many different nuances and experiences and hormones that a woman's never going to understand about a young boy. And it's going to take you as a teacher, potentially, as the only male influence in these young men's lives in a lot of cases, to do that. I had some great coaches in my life when I was young, and I really credit them with a lot of the growth and success that I've had as a young man, and even me being almost 40 years old now. So you can be instrumental in these kids' lives, but you got to get their noses out of the textbook and get them into experiences, and they're going to have more success.
Well, and I think also to add, Ryan, is they're going to connect to him differently because he is a male. So he brings something else to the table because being a male, he understands things differently and those kind of things. But the boys are going to relate to him differently because they're the same. And even if those same things were being taught by a female, they wouldn't relate as the same way. So there's going to be a natural connection that's going to form. What's your thoughts, Ryan, on him saying, being a quote unquote father figure without overstepping professional boundaries, kind of being that? I mean, do you think that's just going to innately happen? Is there any thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can get too close, right?
Yeah.
And that could pose a danger to them and also a risk to you. And you certainly don't want to do that. So yeah, you have to maintain the professional distance, just like you would in any other work environment. You're not
as
going
a
to
boss and the leader. Sometimes we have to
Exactly.
do this. Yeah.
Right. So you're not going to be intrusive. You're not going to get into their personal lives and their personal stories. You're going to learn about them. You're going to learn about what they're going through, and maybe they disclose some of that information to you. But be guarded, be shielded, protect yourself, protect them as well, and maintain the distance, the emotional connection. But realize that you are playing an integral part in their life. But the personal one-on-one closeness is something that just can't happen. It just can't happen. You're just exposing yourself to all sorts of risk that could be jeopardizing, frankly, your career and your livelihood. So be careful there.
Yeah, and like you said, Ryan, commend you, Will. That's awesome.
Yeah,
like I after reading that question, I was kind of like pumped up for him in regards to kind of what he's made his mission.
Well, just the fact that he's asking about it, he's going to experiment with different strategies and try different things. But again, man, get them to compete, get them experiences, get the senses involved, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah. Okay. Zach Schuyler, when a man has been cheated on multiple times, at what point would you personally walk away? Also, what if your spouse wanted to engage in open marriage? How would you approach this? Oh, man.
Wow. Well, let me answer the second question. The answer is no. So if my
on the
wife
open
wanted,
marriage
right,
portion. Yeah.
If she said I want to engage in open marriage, it's like, cool, get the divorce papers ready.
Yeah.
Because I'm not playing that game.
And it's not work. I'm not we say this all the time. We're not psychiatrists, blah, 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 blah. I've known guys that have thought this.
That it would work, or it'd be cool, or what? I can't understand.
No joke. I'll share this quick story. So guy at church, we're home teaching companions. We go meet with our families. I'm driving. I'm on my way to bringing him back to his house, and he goes, I'm like, so dude, how's things going? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, things are fine. He's like, yeah, things are going really well. And he starts to tell me that they're having an open relationship with another couple. And I'm like, dude, that is not going to work. And he's like, oh man, it's our love life's better. Everything's better. I'm like, dude, it's not going to work. Like, I'm telling you right now, like there's so much gray that you are creating, like, and it took like 3 months. Right. And of course they're getting a divorce, and
that seems long for me, but dang, geez, good run, I guess.
But I was like shocked. I was like, what? Are you kidding? You are crazy. And even if, I don't know, for me, I couldn't even deal with it. Like me personally, I don't know if I'm overly jealous or what the deal is, but the thought process just makes the hair on my arm stand up. Like I could not deal. No way. Yeah, sorry.
No.
Not that.
I don't think most men can or should. It's not conducive to a healthy relationship with somebody you're trying to be intimate with. Like if you want to have an open relationship, just don't get married. That's fine.
Yeah, just date around. Yeah.
Right. Like if you want to hook up and you want to see other women and she wants to see other men, okay, well then don't commit to each other, because that's what a marriage is.
Yeah.
Right. A marriage is I have committed to you. Yeah. Dating is I have not yet committed to you, and therefore we are free to see other people. And if that's the case, cool. Have fun. Go do it. But once you've committed, it's a commitment. And that should be honored and respected. What was the first part of the question?
The difficult question. When a man has been cheated on multiple times, at what point would you personally walk away?
That's for every man to decide for himself, but I can't imagine ever accepting my wife back into my life if that is the case. I honestly think that cheating on your spouse is the lowest of low. Like I think that it is one of the most despicable things that you could do. And I know that there's a lot of guys who are listening to this right now who have cheated on their spouses. And I'm telling you, that is despicable behavior. And you need to rectify it as quickly as possible. Stop it, get a divorce, break up with the mistress or the other gal. You need to knock that off right now. And if my wife ever said that she cheated on me, that would be a very difficult thing for me to overcome, or even have the desire to overcome, because I just don't feel like an individual like that can be trusted.
Yeah. And to Zach's question, multiple times would just
yeah, I mean, come on.
That puts the multiplier on the difficulty of the whole scenario.
Of course. Yeah. I can understand how it would happen. You know, you get into your marriage and you get into a little bit of a rut and things get boring or monotonous, and you've got some kids, and then you've got this attractive young woman at work, or, somebody you've met and she gives you a little attention and she's got a hot bod and she's cute, and, you make a mistake, and it is a mistake. I can understand that. I'm not condoning it, but I can understand it.
You can see where a guy could get himself into that position.
Of course. But or a woman. Same thing with a woman. Yeah. I could see it. But then if you rectify it and it happens again, no, that's no longer a mistake. That's a behavior. That's a pattern. And I'm not one to play that game at all. It's despicable behavior.
Yeah. There would have to be some serious, almost like transformation happening post cheat for it to even have the thought of being successful to even pull that off. I've actually known couples. I've heard of couples that have successfully turned around a marriage where cheating was present, but I'm assuming that's a rarity. And in most cases, they probably never recover from something like that.
I know some too. And if it works, all the power to you. And I'm so glad that you could work it out. I think it's very powerful, but man, that's a tough one for me. Very tough one for me.
Mm. All right. One more question. You good with that?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Robbie Vander. Dang it.
I should giving you hard names today.
Yeah. Vander. Robbie. How do you handle anxiety?
I don't get a whole lot of anxiety.
You seem like a real anxious person.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get a whole lot of anxiety, and that might be a personality. I think it's certainly a personality trait. Like some people are more anxious than others. Here's what I would say though. Get to work.
What would you, if you don't mind, what would you say anxiety looks like?
I think anxiety can come from maybe several different things. Maybe your life isn't what you expect it to be, right? So the physical manifestation of your life isn't what you have in your head. And that could
the
be
expectation.
right. That could be on the micro level, like a project at work isn't working out correctly the way that you expected it to go. Or it could be on the macro level, like your relationship is falling apart, or you're not as successful as you thought you would, and you're 40 years old now, and you thought your life would be so much further down the road. But I think there's a incongruity between your actual life and the expectation of your life. I would say that's probably mostly where it comes from, outside of maybe some mental illness or something like
some
that.
Medical situations. Yeah.
Yeah. So the best thing that you can do, since I believe that's where it comes from and that's where it stems from. The other thing I would say is you're focused on things that you can't control.
Yeah.
Right. So
because you're going to be stressed out all the time.
All the time.
Because you can't change it.
Yeah. Because when I get stressed out, and I get stressed out, I'm not an anxious person, but I get stressed out. And my wife will say to me, is there anything you can do about it right now? And my answer is no. Does it make me feel better? No. I'm still stressed out about it, but I'm stressed over things I can't do anything about. So I've really had to embrace the Stoic concept of focus on the things that you can control when you can control them. If there's nothing you can do right now, then maybe you can make a plan for something you can do down the road. That's one strategy I've used. But I think it's hard to be anxious and have anxiety if you're actively engaged in fixing the problem you're anxious about. Right. So if you're anxious about work, but you're actively engaged in fixing the problem or fixing whatever it is you're dealing with, it's hard to be down and have anxiety and depression and upset. You're fixing it. You're rectifying it. Yeah. My mom always used to say, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Right. So she'd say, don't ever be bored. And that's where we started to get in our own head, where we're bored and we're just like caught in these feedback loops of just thinking about things, but not really acting on them. So just get to work. Just make a plan, execute the plan, move the needle, and you're not going to have this same level of anxiety. And then stop focusing on things that are outside of your control. Identify what they are and stop focusing on them.
Do you think there's an element of being present that removes it? I'll give you an example. My daughter, bad parenting on my part. We were looking at where were we? It was during Christmas. I think it was during Christmas, looking at Christmas lights, running. Hands in her pocket. I was like, oh, and went running up some stairs, tripped, took a concrete step to her chin. And the poor little thing, she got stitches like, I don't know, a couple months ago. By the way, it was like brutal. I think we talked about this on the podcast. She was like, not letting shots go in her toe is like a really tough situation for her. She did not want to get stitches and all this stuff. Falls on the step and she gets cut. And I look at it immediately and we're like, she's getting stitched. Like that's the first thought that crossed my mind. This poor thing's gonna get stitches on her chin. And immediately she goes, I'm gonna have to get stitches, aren't I? Right? We didn't even say anything, but she immediately went to, I'm going to have to get stitches. And she started really crying and being just stressed out and anxious and just really like having a hard time dealing with the circumstance. And I told her, I'm like, well, hold on. Do you know if you're going to have to get stitches or not? She's like, no, but I bet. I'm like, no, you don't know, right? That's not up to me. That's not up to mom. We're going to take you to the doctor. He's going to look and he's going to tell us. But right now, you don't know if you need stitches. Mm-hmm. So let's not even get stressed out about it since we don't even know if it's going to happen or not. And just be present with the idea that like, okay, we don't know. Let's keep it closed as much as possible, right? And then if you go to the doctor and he says, hey, you're getting stitches, then stress out, right? Like, right. Then you know it's going to actually happen. But until it happens, until you know that's actually going to be the case, let's just be focused on what is so. And what is so is we don't know.
Right.
Right. And I think there's a little bit of anxiety with looking to the future and assuming the worst, and it's going to be this or it's going to be that, and versus just being present with our current state of things.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. I think that falls in line with focusing on things you can't control.
Taking action at the moment. Yeah.
Right. Like you can't control that. Like you can't control the outcome.
Per se. Yeah.
Like she cut her chin open. What's happened. Now the priority is to focus on the things that you can control, which is keeping it closed, stop the bleeding, calm yourself down, whatever, put some ice on it to reduce swelling. Like focus on the things you can control, which is the actions you can take. Whether you're going to get stitches or not right now is frankly, it's just out of your hands. So don't get wrapped up in it to the best of your ability, which is tough. I fell today. I got out of my truck.
Same thing. You're running with your hands in your pockets.
No, I got out of my truck. I just got back from the post office and I got out of my truck and it's snowing a little bit today. And that snow, man, is slick snow today. And I fell and I had something in my hands, both hands. I had like a letter and I don't know, something in my other hand. And I fell and I landed on my elbow. And when I hit, I'm like, oh, I just broke my collarbone. Because I thought, like I said, I landed on my elbow and it pushed my shoulder up and I felt it in my collarbone. I'm like, I just broke my collarbone. And I'm sitting there. And of course, I do the first thing you do when you fall is you look around to make sure nobody saw.
Yeah, exactly.
So I look around. I'm like, okay, nobody saw. So I get up and I'm like move my shoulder a little bit. It's a little tender. It feels fine now. So I didn't break it, but my elbow really hurts. So yeah, I fell today.
And by the way, she ended up not getting stitches.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I should ask that. Yeah. See, there you go. Don't focus on that stuff.
Yeah. Worked out okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, should we wrap it up for today?
Yes, sir. All right.
Got a lot of good questions there.
Yeah, no, those were great questions. And we mentioned this earlier, right? Join us on Facebook, guys, if you want to submit these questions or just be part of the conversation that's similar to this conversation, but with other, 61,000 other men and growing daily. 65,000 and joining. And it's like every day there's like a few more hundred, it seems like. Yeah. So you can join us there, facebook.com/group/Order of Man. And of course, you can join us in the Iron Council, our exclusive brotherhood. To learn more about the Iron Council, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. I believe we had a few spots, not many, but there's just a few spots for the Legacy event on June 11th through the 14th. That's in Maine. It's a father and son event, boys between the ages of 8 and 15 years of age. You can learn more about the Legacy events at orderofman.com/legacy. And of course, Ryan mentioned this earlier, Friday Field Notes. I'm actually looking forward to that episode that you mentioned. To catch that episode, subscribe to the podcast, check out the YouTube channel, and or just join Ryan on Instagram or Twitter at Ryan Michler, Michler, to just stay in contact and get updated, right? And he often posts different episodes get released, and that's just another way to stay connected and updated in regards to different podcasts and things that we are doing. And of course, to join the challenge, the wallet challenge, the discount wallet challenge, you can get that wallet and many more items at store.orderofman.com. Let us know. I'm actually really curious about this.
I think somebody can do it. I want to, again, just to reiterate, if you can get, it doesn't matter how you do it, but if you can get an Order of Man discount, it has to be an Order of Man discount. It can't just be like, oh, I'll give you a discount because you asked for it.
You have to say, can
Order
I
of Man discount.
Yep.
And if you can say that and you can verify that by maybe showing me what you got or showing me your receipt, with 10% off or whatever, you can verify the Order of Man discount, then I'll send you something. I think somebody can do it. I think several somebodies can do it. I'm a little worried. Maybe a bunch of people will try, and I'll be sending out shirts for weeks. All right,
limited time. This is
for a limited time while supplies last. While supplies last. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for being on the path. Thanks for helping both Kip and I. I'm speaking for you, Kip, a little bit on this, but helping us to be better men as well. We really appreciate the accountability and the questions and everything else you're doing. All right, guys. Go out there, take action, become the man you are meant to be.